Damage caused by corrosion is both hazardous and expensive to fix. It may cause structural damage to buildings and bridges, oil pipeline breaks, chemical plant leaks, and even flooding in restrooms. Air pollution has corroded medical implants and ruined lives, while corrosion in electrical connections has triggered fires and other disasters. Assalamualaikum and hello. In this video, my teammates and I are going to be exploring and presenting on our study of interest, the corrosion of irons and the factors that influences this phenomenon. In this video, we will be covering the introduction and objective of research, the methodology used in this research, the results and discussion, as well as the conclusion of this experiment. The objectives of this experiment are to study the influence of environment on corrosion, to study the effect of ionic solution or electrolyte on corrosion, and to study the effect of a second metal, which are aluminum and copper, in contact with the iron in an electrolyte solution.
Corrosion is possible only if certain metals have impurities, oxygen, and moisture. The corrosion of metals such as iron is an electrochemical process. Very pure samples of iron seem to resist corrosion. In contrast, when a piece of iron containing specks of impurities such as copper are exposed to moist air, the iron becomes pitted with rust spots. Iron rust is a reddish brown. Therefore, rust spots indicate the location at which pure iron has been oxidized. These rust spots represent the anode half cells of an electrochemical cell. Such impurities as copper serve as the cathode half cells and are located in unaffected areas adjacent to the rust spots. The electrons travel through the iron from the anode to the cathode. A film of moisture serves as the medium through which ions travel to complete the circuit. The electrochemical theory of corrosion is supported by the observation that iron exposed to perfectly dry air does not corrode. There are three half-cell reactions which would present possible reactions in this complex. Okay, next for the methodology. The first method that we want to investigate in this experiment is the influence of environment on corrosion of iron. For the first step is all nails were cleaned with sandpaper. Second step is the 3 test tubes that were filled with tap water and one is left empty. Nails were added into each test tube and layer of oil was poured in one of the test tubes with tap water. Another test tube that containing tap water is degassed with nitrogen gas for 5 minutes. And then the test tube was covered with rubber stopper. So basically in this first method, we have 4 test tubes. Test tube 1 containing only 1 nail. Test tube 2 containing tap water with immersed nail. Test tube 3 containing tap water with immersed nail and floating layer of oil on top of water. And test tube 4 containing degassing tap water with immersed nail and cover with rubber stopper. For second methodology is we want to investigate the effect of electrolyte on corrosion of iron. First step is test tube was filled with distilled water and another test tube was filled with sodium chloride solution. And both of the test tube was filled with 1 nail. Okay, lastly, we want to investigate the effect of copper and aluminium when in contact with iron in electrolyte solution. So for the first step is each of iron nails were cleaned with sandpaper and the head of one nail were wrapped with aluminium foil and the other nails were wrapped with copper wire. Each of the prepared sample was put into a test tube that contains sodium chloride solution. So in this experiment, we do not have any calculation. So we are going to move to the next agenda.
Hi everyone, I am Alia Nadia and I'm going to elaborate for the result and discussion of this experiment. Alright, As we know, the breakdown of metals by chemical or electrochemical means as a result of their interaction with the environment is known as corrosion. Rusting, also known as corrosion of iron, is an oxidation reduction process that obliterates iron left out in the open and exposed to a moisture. Rust is a common outcome when iron metal is exposed to oxygen and water. Alright, based on this experiment, after 1 week, the corrosion process of nails in various environments is compared. We will look at the first 4 test tubes. For the first test tube, it only contained a nail without any type of solution. So after 1 week, we can see that there is no change on the nail and no corrosion had occurred at all. So the level for this corrosion of this test tube is only first level. Alright, for the second test tube, the nail corrodes after being left in the tap water in an open test tube for a week. We can see there is orange yellowish precipitate form, and for this test tube, it is second level of corrosion. This is due to the fact that tap water has a high percentage of oxygen, which is known as the ingredient most necessary to promote corrosion. Next, the third test tube. The nail is not corroding, but orange yellowish precipitate is also formed. This is because the oxygen at this test tube comes only from the tap water and not from the environment because it has a layer of oil on top. At the test tube number 4, the nail is beginning to rust and the solution is turning yellow as it is submerged in the deoxygenated water. If any oxygen is still present in the water, it may slightly speed out of the rusting process. So the level of corrosion for the third and fourth test tube are number 1 and number 2 level corrosion respectively. Okay, next we will see for the test tube number 5 and number 6. Both these test tubes, the iron nails are corroded. At test tube number 5, extreme rusting turns the nails black and produce precipitate, while at 6th test tube, also extreme rusting turns the nails black and causes the solution to turn yellow. This is because the 5th test tube has distilled water and it may easily absorb oxygen from the atmosphere in comparison to the ordinary tap water. The iron nail also corrodes in sodium chloride solution, which is test tube number 6, due to the solution's ability to improve the conductivity of corrosive liquid and hence quicken the reaction between the iron and dissolved oxygen. So the corrosion level for test tube number 5 is level 2, while for the 6th test tube is level 3. Lastly, for the last 2 test tube, which is number 7 and number 8, the nail corrodes at test tube 7, turning black. The aluminium produces precipitate, but the part of the nail covered with aluminium does not corrode. Aluminium does not rust or corrode when exposed to moisture, unlike iron and steel. An organic layer of aluminium oxide covers its surface to protect it. So rather than rusting aluminium, the iron nail is doing so. At the last test tube, which is test tube number 8, the nail hardly corrodes and produces brick red precipitate. So both test tubes have second and third level of corrosion respectively.
We may conclude from our research that the environment influences the corrosion rate. Rusting requires the presence of oxygen and water, and salt dissolved in water accelerates the process. Copper and iron also contribute to iron's corrosion. That wraps up our video for today. We hope that this video will extend your knowledge surrounding the corrosion of irons and the factors that influences its corrosion rate. That is all from us. Thank you so much for tuning into our video.